All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of things today. Most notably, wide receiver Drake London from USC, as you see on the screen, is visiting the Washington Commanders. Also, quarterback Carson from Nevada had a private workout with the Washington Commanders. So we're going to talk about all of that. Like, is Drake London an option at 11? Is Carson an option maybe in the second? Or if we somehow trade back or acquire some picks somehow to end up getting a third round pick, maybe you take a chance on Carson there. Because, I mean, it would make sense. Carson can be the next Carson Wentz if he checks out health-wise. And I also want to dive into his health situation as well, along with Drake London's. Both guys with injury concerns. Are we willing to spend two of our top 3 picks on guys with injury concerns? And then I also want to talk about a lot of other random stuff that's happened recently, like us signing Joey Slye to a 2-year contract. I know it happened a while ago, but I never got a chance to actually report it. I've been working on other videos and other stuff. And then also some interesting stats for JD McKissick and the Giants wide receiver room. So before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you go become a channel member. Been slipping the past couple of days, but especially when we get close to the draft, I'm gonna start coming out with raw unedited film sessions every day. And like the week leading into the draft, I'm probably gonna do more than 1 film session a day, because I still gotta watch a lot of these guys. And even though I may have watched somebody a little bit, I haven't like sat down for hours and watched one single person for a few of these prospects. So definitely be on the lookout for that, because I mean, I figured I'm gonna watch it anyway. Why not record my live reaction to seeing what's going on and upload it? So that's for the channel members only. So if you're not one, go become one. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so it's been reported by John Keim that Washington will host wide receiver Drake London for a visit this week. And remember, we attended his pro day at USC as well. So there's definitely some strong interest there. Is the interest as strong as a Chris Olave? I don't know. And of course, I mean, for me, I'm not as big on Chris Olave as a lot of people are. I'm not a huge Drake London fan either, but I do feel like his separation issues that people bring up are a little bit blown out of proportion. And I like Chris Olave a lot. I think he has a very high floor. I'm just more of a Jameson Williams, Traylon Burks, if everything works out mentally. His whole situation is mental. And George Pickens, of course, I'm more of that realm of guys. So guys like Christian Watson, Drake London, those type of guys intrigue me a lot. And again, I like Chris Olave, I like Garrett Wilson. They're just not my type of guys. They're very high floor guys. I prefer to go with a higher ceiling guy, because I feel like we already have, I mean, Terry McLaurin. It'd be different if we didn't have Terry McLaurin and we just were like, man, can we just please hit on a wide receiver? Can we please get a guaranteed Pro Bowler, or at least a #1 in a receiver? Then I would definitely see the argument for Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. But I mean, if you can potentially get, I mean, it's a generous comp, but Mike Evans and Drake London, if you could potentially get, I don't even know what to compare Christian Watson to. George Pickens, you can maybe say a slightly faster D-hop. Like, if you, Jameson Williams, I think is just going to be a star. I think he's basically just going to be a taller, slightly slower, just naturally, because Tyreek Hill is the fastest NFL player, just period. So Jameson Williams, I think, is going to be really close to Tyreek Hill. I just don't think he'll be quite the speed of Tyreek Hill, because that's just, I mean, they just don't make those. We haven't seen a Darrell Green since Darrell Green. I mean, people like that just aren't made. But I do feel like Jameson Williams is a future star. He's still my wide receiver 1, regardless of the torn ACL, because with modern science, modern medicine, physical therapy, people just bounce back like nothing happened. And I'm pretty sure even if Jameson Williams only 90% what he used to be, he's still going to be one of the 10 fastest people in the NFL. He's that fast. So I'm really not worried about him. But we're mostly talking about Drake London here. I think he would be a nice compliment to Terry McLaurin, because again, we already have a bunch of 6-foot even guys running around. You have De'Ami Brown, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. Cam Sims, I guess, would be your one guy that has some serious height to him. But Drake London's definitely more talented than a Cam Sims. So if you wanted to just make sure you have 2 of those, along with 4 speedy, fast guys, I think that would make sense rather than having 5 speedy, fast guys and Cam Sims your only big target, especially for a guy like Carson Wentz who really likes to throw the big targets. Again, I'm not necessarily advocating for Drake London. I'm just trying to give you the logic as to why that could make more sense than a Chris Olave. But I can see why some people prefer Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson over Drake London, especially, I mean, the NFL is a separation league. If you can't separate, it's just like, what can you really do? Like, if separation is the easiest thing that translates to the NFL level. Granted, DBs are better, but if you know how to separate, if you're great with route running, quick, twitchy, agile, explosive out of your breaks and things like that, that's going to translate to the NFL. So again, higher floor with Chris Olave and those guys, but definitely a higher ceiling with a guy like Drake London. And I mean, I think Drake London may, if his injury checks out, and apparently with us bringing him in for a visit, I guess we're going to take a closer look at him, closer look than we did at his pro day at USC. I think if they feel comfortable enough to go with him at 11, they probably will pull that trigger. I really do think so. And again, Drake London, not the greatest separator, but I think his separation issues are blown out of proportion a little bit. I don't think it's like he just can't get open at all. He's definitely more agile than a person his size should be, which is a disclaimer at his size. But still, I think he's going to be able to separate at the NFL level a little bit, at least enough. And I mean, even if he doesn't, you can argue Drake London is the best contested catcher coming out of the draft in years. So it's just like, he's not N'Keal Harry. First of all, N'Keal Harry was extremely slow. Drake London is very athletic, even for somebody his size. But for somebody his size, he's crazy athletic. He's crazy agile for a guy his size. But even if he was the same amount of agility at 6'1", you could still say he was fairly agile. So again, I think his separation issues blowing out of proportion a little bit. But again, I'm not a huge Drake London fan. Just giving y'all the logic behind why this makes sense. Again, Carson Wentz, we're going to talk about Carson Strong next. He does like his big targets. He loves his big targets. And right now, I mean, Cam Sims hit him up and was like, man, make sure you throw the ball to me, because people just haven't been throwing the ball to me since I've been here. But Drake London is just higher still than Cam Sims. I think higher floor as well. I think he's just everything we want Cam Sims to be. I think he's already that, and with the potential to be better. So it just depends on what you like. But me personally, I prefer to take George Pickens in the second or Jamison Williams in the first over all these other guys. But that's just me. Moving on, you also have some Carson Strong news, which is really interesting. Apparently, the Washington Commanders brought Carson Strong in for a private workout, so that's going to be really interesting. They also brought in tight end Cole Turner, but the most important thing is Carson Strong, and that's a serious option. And maybe like the second round, maybe we trade back and get a later second round pick, or maybe we do some type of trade, maybe trade back in the first and acquire a third round pick, which we don't have. We don't have a third or a fifth round pick in this draft, which is the worst draft to not have late round picks, middle round picks, because it's arguably the deepest draft in NFL history, just because of the pandemic. And some guys were super seniors. They stayed an extra year further than they normally would. So this draft literally just has the largest player pool that an NFL draft will probably ever have. Now, you can argue deep talent wise, but if we're talking about overall quantity instead of just quality, this is definitely the deepest draft in NFL history. Again, you can debate about quality. And so just not having a third or fifth round pick does hurt us, especially with all of the freak athletes, specifically at linebacker, wide receiver. It's such a deep draft at interior offensive line. So I definitely feel like we should get those picks up somehow, acquire some picks, trade back, whatever you got to do. But yeah, then Carson Strong in the third, maybe again late second, makes sense. I've heard recently, and this changed everything how I felt about Carson Strong. I mean, I was already Carson Strong, Matt Corral, Malik Willis coming into the season. I was never, I think Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma, I never really understood the hype. He had a nice few games at the end of the 2020 season, but I still didn't think the hype was deserved for him to be QB1 going into this draft. And then it all played out. And so I've always been a Carson Strong fan. But his injury did concern me, and I mean, just watching his tape, I felt like the mobility concerns were a little out of proportion, but they were definitely there. I didn't feel like he was just Peyton Manning in the pocket. But recently I got some news and heard that Carson Strong shouldn't have even played this year. He has an injury that's just taken a long time to heal, and him playing on it didn't necessarily make it worse, but he was basically playing on one leg. So he had one of the best deep balls, arguably the best deep ball out of this entire draft class playing on one leg, and all those mobility concerns are coming from him basically trying to run around and drag a leg. So I mean, Carson Strong, I'm gonna go back and look at the tape after hearing that information and really look at it to see, like, was he really just walking around with a dead leg this whole time trying to make things shake? So I think Carson Strong is a decent consideration. I mean, I'm one of those guys that feels like if you're not going to take a quarterback in the first, it's just like kind of not worth it, because obviously you don't really care about him enough to take a risk on him anyway. So it's just like, you know, like if you're willing to wait till the third and let him slide that many picks and have that many teams take a chance on him, and you just like, well, hey, if he's still there in the third round, we'll try, then I feel like you probably shouldn't draft him in the first place. But who knows, man? I mean, if you're arguing for value, Carson Strong maybe later. And then again, like I said in the intro, I mean, Carson Wentz, the closest thing you could probably get to that out of recent drafts, just in general, not even just this draft, is literally Carson Strong. Like, I mean, Carson Strong literally has the potential to be literally Carson Wentz. I think once that leg is fully healed, again, I'm not necessarily worried about the future after that report. Go find, I forgot where I found it. Make sure y'all go find that information and listen to it for yourself, read it on your own, because it made me very optimistic about how Carson Strong could be way better at the NFL level than he even was in college. And so I'm not necessarily worried about that injury, and I think once that injury is completely fixed and he's 100%, if he'll ever get there, I think he could literally be Carson Wentz, just, you know, less of a risk taker, throwing interceptions to linebackers right in their chest in the red zone. Like, I think he'll basically be Carson Wentz without that. But yeah, man, I mean, we'll see, man. There's a lot going on with the draft, so I'm really interested in seeing how this turns out. Cole Turner at tight end makes a lot of sense because we have a big need at tight end. Like I've said in several videos, I'm gonna keep repeating myself, but as of right now, the only tight ends that we have on a roster who are projected to even be healthy for week 1 of the regular season are John Bates and Sammis Reyes. And is Sammis Reyes even ready to play yet, for real, like to actually full-blown start for us to run 12 personnel with him? Or is he still too raw to be out there on obvious passing downs and things like that? So Logan Thomas, we're not sure if he's even healthy enough to play week 1. Ricky Seals-Jones went to the Giants, and then that's it. You just left with John Bates and Sammis Reyes, and that's it. No depth, no real starters outside of John Bates, so it's ugly. So I definitely see us taking a tight end at some point in this draft. It's just really a debate as to when. Like, are we going to take one in the second? Are we going to find a way again to accumulate some picks and take one in the third? Or maybe we wait till like the 4th or 5th to get like a Jelani Woods, who has a crazy high ceiling, but you know, he's going to come in fairly raw. You even have Armani Rogers, who just switched from quarterback to tight end like literally just a few weeks ago, who you may be able to get in the 7th or as an undrafted free agent. So again, we're definitely going to bring in 1 or 2 tight ends at some point, like draft week, whether it be an undrafted free agent or we draft one during the draft, one of the 7 rounds. I definitely feel like we're going to walk away with at least 1 or 2. And hey, Cole Turner, my fault, actually sounds like a reasonable option. Also, just wanted to talk about how the Commanders signed kicker Joey Slye to a 2-year deal worth up to nearly $5 million with $2 million guaranteed. I think that's a home run signing. That may arguably be our best signing of the offseason, one of our best moves. We lost a lot of players, but at least we kept our franchise kicker. We even have a franchise backup kicker in Brian Johnson. We re-signed him earlier, so I think that's a really good move right there, because Joey Slye does look like a franchise kicker. We've been looking for one for so long, and Dustin Hopkins was never it. I do feel like Dustin Hopkins got a little bit more hate than he deserved, but he was not a franchise kicker, and I'm very happy to have Joey Slye because he clearly is. I think he only missed, what, 1 kick last year, and it was the one that got blocked, and then that's the one where he got hurt, and then we ended up going to Brian Johnson. So if your kick gets blocked, man, just let it go. Don't go try to make a tackle, go make a play, because you're going to just end up getting yourself hurt like you did. Yeah, I mean, even Ian Rappaport said he made 92% of his kicks last year, and that would look better if he just was the starter the entire year, because I believe he only missed 1 kick, but he didn't kick a lot, so that 92 percentage, it looks a little bit, I mean, 92% is great, but it should look better. If he started from week 1, his percentage would probably be like 98% if he continued on the pace that he was going. And then also in very random news, The most catches in the NFL without a drop last season, you have Tyler Lockett with 73, Bengals with Tyler Boyd with 67, Patriots Hunter Henry with 50, Jets Braxton Berrios with 46, and Commanders JD McKissic with 43. So he was top 5 in most catches in the NFL without a drop last season. Granted, he's a running back. A lot of those catches come from screens and little dump offs and the flat and things like that underneath, maybe like a slant. But that's still fairly impressive. It's not as impressive as the guys ahead of him, but that's still fairly impressive. And then lastly, speaking of catches and receivers, this is a tweet that came from Warren Sharp, which I find hilarious. The most expensive wide receiver room in 2022, the New York Giants at over $40 million. Fewest TDs by a wide receiver room in 2021, the New York Giants had 5 touchdowns. Not only was it the fewest in 2021, it was the fewest by any wide receiver room since 2017, and now they're the most expensive wide receiver room in the NFL going into 2022. I find that hilarious. Giants, y'all better figure something out, because that sounds really ugly and dark for y'all. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Appreciate all of my supporters. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Again, if you're not a channel member, go become one, because those exclusive raw and edited film sessions are going to keep coming out. I'm trying to work on a film session that's edited and organized like I normally do for the general public, but I just got to find the time to do it. Where these raw and edited film sessions, I could just sit down for 30 minutes to an hour, live react to it, and upload it, minimal editing. So make sure you go become a channel member to get that exclusive content. And again, I appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.